Hello, everybody, and welcome to, I suppose Aurorum Thronekeeper Session 0 for Foxy Doxy. What's up, Doxy?
Howdy, howdy.
Are you excited about this new campaign?
I'm very excited about this new campaign.
We haven't played D&D together since, I think, Kids on Bikes.
It's been a long, long time.
Oh, no. Actually, it wasn't Kids on Bikes. It was when we played together with Will Graham and Adriosa and everybody out in L.A. So still, like...
That's true. Yeah, at D&D Live, yeah.
Yeah, 10 months ago, I think it was, right?
Almost a year.
Yeah.
Well, Too long.
So finally D&D, woo! We're close to D&D, but close enough, right?
Role play.
But not the kind that we send each other in video messages.
Yeah, no, they don't. TOS.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Cut the recording.
So anyways, so I'm excited because in this campaign, as we've talked about beforehand, we're going to be exploring a different part of the world that we haven't really gotten into with the other campaigns yet. And as I've said a million times over, the games all intermingle with one another in a way or other ways. So you're going to get to kind of experience that and see how it goes. So without further ado, I kind of want to jump into this and see how we can get to know your character. So opening up, one of the things that we need to know that's super important about your character is what it is that she has found as a profession for herself because of her life experiences. She happens to be part of an organization called the Jewels of Eroth, which has its own name because of reasons throughout time.
Prestige, obviously.
Of course, yeah, because they're very valuable. So the Jewels of Eroth is an organization that technically exists throughout the entire continent of Eroth, but predominantly has its biggest foundation, where it has its most grasp, so forth, in the nation of Ascaria. Now, the important thing to note about Ascaria is that it's a nation that's kind of like to the southwest of the continent that actually happens to have like the most wealth of everybody there. They have the greatest density of greatest abundance of natural magical resources. So whether it be like magical stones or other materials that exist in that nation, they have the greatest amount of them just within their fingertips inside their nation's borders. And they use that to kind of control the market, have tons and tons and tons and tons of money. And so they kind of come out as like the bankrollers of the nation. And so obviously any organization that's kind of worth its weight in salt definitely is going to find itself a good foothold there. Jewels of Eroth being one of the big ones. Now within that organization, you happen to fall in a group, and we can worry about the structure of the hierarchy and whatnot as we move along, but in a chunk of the organization that happens to be known as the Diamonds. Now the Diamonds of the Jewels of Eroth are a group of ladies and gentlemen that are kind of like companions, if you will, to people that come seeking their, companionship. Kind of like whether it be a beautiful person to wear on their arm at a gala, or a brilliant mind to have a conversation with at some sort of social gathering. Please.
They're fancy escorts. Known as muses.
Yeah, no, and I was going to say, and they do go by the title or name muse.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to look to procure the entertainment of a muse, so on and so forth. But you have to be part of the Diamond, the Diamond part of this organization.
Diamond Sector.
The Diamond Sector. Not only that, you also happen to be one of the higher ranking people there. I mean, your character has gained a certain bit of renown and whatnot. Not only because of like the quality of companionship that she offers to those that she's there, but also that your character seems to, correct me if I'm wrong, she speaks her mind.
Yeah, she's not shy about what she's thinking and feeling.
Yeah. It's not like an escort or a companion that you think of as being a simple wallflower, but certainly somebody that is willing to share their mind. And that kind of catches a lot of people off guard. They kind of like, you can imagine the kind of persons that could afford such a companion almost liking the challenge,
Somebody who dares to bring her is going to garner respect among other party goers, or even just like in the community. People are going to be like, oh, they chose a feisty one.
One of the things I wanted to say is that so speaking of someone who chooses to bring her, well, kind of funny enough is we're actually opening this campaign with you going to an event with somebody I'd actually look to procure your services for it. Now, the event that you're going to is actually the Pildemal annual. So the Pildemal is actually the name of the capital of Ascaria. It is, again, this is the annual event that is kind of like one of the biggest things that take place, one of the biggest galas. The number of people that go to this from all of the nations, the amount of money that's poured into just the location, the kind of food, the music, all this stuff is absolutely ridiculous. And what happens to be unique for a person of your caliber, not just your profession, but how high up, how well regarded you are in that profession, is you technically didn't need to have anybody even hire you as an escort to bring them there. You actually happen to have a few connections from persons that you've made friends with along the way that you've even gotten just straight out invitations. So it's one of those fun things where before the Pidamal's date was even arranged, you had a few invitations find themselves to your doorstep. And then after the date was arranged and so on and so forth, there were a few more invitations. And some people have like names that you're like, that's cute, throw them away. These are like, this is like fan mail that's not even worth opening. You know, it's like fan mail with like McDonald's grease on it. You know?
Is this one written in crayon? Ugh.
This is Doxy's real life. No. And
Please send me messages in crayon. I would love that.
Sorry. So anyways, but then there are also persons like you happen to have a few contacts in the mercantile family of Claude of Ascaria, or the mercantile family of Glausine of Ascaria, two of the biggest, if not the biggest, mercantile families in the nation. And it is a plutocracy, Ascaria is. So again, it's the wealth is the movers and the shakers of this nation. But actually, you have to have somebody that looked to you, was appointed to you by the Moist Knight branch of your organization, that you were to be hired by somebody by the name of Vistus Zanara. Now, the name alone kind of gives you the impression that they're very likely in a Maltese person, which is, funny. Your character happens to be of a Maltese lineage or whatever, but that's like so far in your past and not at all anything that's really pertinent, because you've more or less spent all of your time in Ascaria because of your profession and upbringing. Right. As for what you know about this character, however, or this person, you can actually go ahead and roll me an intelligence check to see what you know. Okay, so one of the things that you know about Vitus Zanara is that they happen to work for the military. So this actually happens to be... I have my ranks over here because I'm stupid. We're going to go with the rank of Senpai. Is that a rank? Senpai? Yes? No? No, I'm dumb.
Savant.
No. Their actual rank is going to be Savant Zanara. But more importantly, even though they're Savant, so a high-ranking military officer, they also happen to come from a family line of one of the sorcerer bloodlines. So they happen to be a person of nobility themselves.
Okay.
Which is why they're going to have the ability to pay for such an arrangement. What you know of the person is that they are generally stationed, because you're a result of a 10.
It's really bad for having high intelligence.
Oh, yeah. But that's actually that's not a terrible roll, though. It's average. So it's somebody who's of significance you would definitely know about. You know that this person is, because rumors and whatnot's being said, because people always talk about these things, right? They're generally stationed in the wall to the east, which means that they're one of the persons that actually oversee maintaining the ice wall that sits between the two lakes on the eastern edge of Amalta, trying to hold back the Paradel military from overtaking them. Okay. I don't know if you had any other questions about it, but what I want to know is your character, as she's getting herself prepared to go to the gala, to go to this big event. How does she present herself? How is she looking to dress for the evening?
She's gonna look gorgeous. She will have several perfumes. She will have makeup done, though she really doesn't need it because they take very good care of themselves. She'll have had her hair like pressed and wear it long, probably down her back, but half up, in a bun, on top, like, but really long down her back for the bottom half of it. It's long, dark hair. And she's very like waifishly thin, but she still has a very womanly shape. So she would wear something that accentuates that. Maybe a like corset top with ruffle sleeves and a long ball gown kind of skirt.
Gotcha. Now, if I remember correctly, because something we were describing beforehand, would you be rocking some of like the tell signs of the?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Okay, so my house within the Academy of the Jewels of Asgard,
Yep.
Aroth. Sorry, I
Yep.
always do that. They're really known for their winemaking abilities. They make the best wine in the country. People are always buying wine from them. And so they kind of play to that in her house. They wear like the pattern. Most, you know how most corsets have like a like lacy pattern over the top of them. Her lacy pattern would be grapes on a vine.
Gotcha.
And it would be like a wine red color, and then maybe like an emerald leafy green skirt.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So you're literally going with like the whole color scheme for those like deep reds and those like darker kind of greens. Gotcha. Nice. Awesome. So I like it.
And she would have also a green kind of cloak that would be clasped with a brooch with a diamond on it.
Gotcha. When the day finally comes for you to go and attend this gala, it's one of those things where you don't get picked up from your homestead by any stretch of the imagination, from the home that's kind of like paid for you by your organization. You actually would be meeting them at the organization itself. So you would you could get ready at your home, or you can get ready there, whichever it is you prefer. Usually there, if it's for a big event like this, because they just have way more materials,
resources,
for you,
yeah,
resources
for sure.
Use. And you're of course the face of their organization, so it's super important that you're 10 out of 10. Would hire again. So when you're there, they would actually send for a carriage to come pick you up, and then when the carriage picks you up, they would be waiting for you inside the carriage. So they would actually be, my apologies, they wouldn't send for a carriage. They would a carriage ride to go and pick you up. So you would actually meet the gentleman that had hired you at this point. So you probably haven't seen any images. I'm actually going to tell you with your 10 that you haven't seen any images of them prior. So meeting them for the first time is always an interesting experience, because obviously they've likely seen many images of you depicted before, or descriptions. Whereas you,
when they're choosing a muse, there are several portraits that they can look at, like almost headshots of the girls, and like kind of a biography of them and what makes them tick, like little things that you would like about them.
My name's Stacy. I like long walks on the beach and anime.
My name is Doxy. I like long stints on the couch and Taco Bell.
Taco Bell.
Yeah, fuck yeah, bud.
Oh, God.
Give me that chalupa.
Not so foxy Doxy.
Into it.
Gassy Doxy.
I process Taco Bell just fine, but okay.
I'm lactose intolerant. You just saw me down a tub of ice cream, so it's all good. So anyways, when the carriage comes over to pick you up outside of your academy, and what's important to note about the academy that you have here in Ascaria is it's mind-blowingly beautiful. You know what I mean? It's absolutely stunning. So first of all, because the colors of the fields that would be growing the grapes, because clearly it would be here where the grapes are being grown, because the color of the fields are so rich with those like bright greens, those deep reds of the grapes, as well as like those dark greens of the leaves themselves and whatnot. The actual academy or establishment itself is out of a lighter white granite, so it's just like very like stark, beautiful look that has some statues in the front, and you can imagine almost what it looks like on the inside. But we don't need to worry about those descriptions now. When they come pick you up, the front of the actual place is that big, huge U-shaped driveway that you can imagine. That's all cobblestone, and once again, set with just like the cobblestone, even though cobblestone has a bit of a bumpiness to it, they're set so smooth and flat that it's a relatively smooth ride being on the roads here, even on a carriage. When you finally are picked up at the carriage once again adorned beautifully. It's very fancy. Ascaria spares no expense. When the person meets you inside, you actually meet them, and they are actually wearing their officer's uniform for the Malta military, which you yourself know is not unheard of, but a little bold of a move to make, because Malta, unfortunately, is not doing so well with the war that they've been participating in for over a decade now. The number of years, but for over a decade now. And the idea of walking around in that military garb, when very likely many of the people you're going to be seeing at the establishment, gives you a mind of, you're probably going to have to deal with a little bit of repartee in defense.
I'm always up for the challenge, so it's okay.
Which is very likely why he's come to you, for somebody to take to his side. The gentleman himself, on top of wearing just his military garb, he's actually looks like he's probably in his early to mid 50s. Definitely a human that's sitting there. So you know his
Clooney 50s or Buscemi 50s.
Oh, jeez. Oh, poor Steve. I love Steve.
I also love Steve.
Oh, he's such a good actor.
He's wonderful.
How do you do, children? How do you do, fellow kids? Oh, God, I'm a boomer. So,
a little bit.
Yeah, it's bad. Okay, it hurts. Shut up, Joey. So the, it's actually kind of in between the two. So it's not like he's some drop-dead, bombshell of a 50-something-year-old, and he's also
but a little silver foxy.
Yeah, exactly. Like his beard is mostly gray with a little bit, and it's not like it's a super long beard. Like mine's actually kind of shaggy right now. It's like a super long beard.
Affleck 50.
Yeah, there you go. Affleck.
Okay.
50. Yeah.
Okay.
Like he put on a couple extra pounds, but he still doesn't look terrible. You know what I mean? Like, Batman's looking a little thick.
All right,
I
would offer him my hand and perform just an effortless curtsy that is like a thing to behold. It would be beautiful.
Absolutely. So as you're as like the carriage opens and you're escorted into the carriage by you're actually allowed to sit in there, and that's how you meet them for the first time sitting. And so of course you offer his hands, and within the space that you have, like you said, your character is actually very dexterous and graceful, easily able to curtsy. And he'll actually speak to you and say, name, because it is pronounced Chrysalin.
Chrysalin.
God damn it. Chrysalin.
Chrysalin
like
Feldspar.
Chrysalin.
Oh my God.
I have to lock it in there.
Like chrysalis, like a butterfly.
Like chrysalis, like a butterfly. Chrysalin. Chrysalin. Insulin. Chrysalin.
Oh my God.
Sorry. I got Neil on my brain. So you, Dr. Neil. So Chrysalin, so he would actually take your hand, of course, as you do your curtsy, and say, Chrysalin, I do have to say, I'm stunned, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
The pleasure's all mine.
And so, of course, the door, closes with a slight snap behind you, and the two of you are able to continue your way on. As you're making your way from where it was that he had picked you up, which is not terribly far of a ride, but across town over to where the gala is going to take place, the two of you are able to engage in a small amount of light conversation. We don't need to worry about this little bit of chitter chatter back and forth. What I would like you to do is to kind of like lay your impression on him. If you actually like to roll me a communications check on the person. Ew. So, not only is a 16 a wonderful roll, you actually earn some stunt points. Just a reminder of those watching, the way stunt points work is anytime the 3d6 has doubles, doesn't matter which two dice, you earn stunt points. The number of stunt points you get is always based off of the third die that is rolled, which is the little green, the little blue covered 3 right there. Doxy, was there anything you'd like to use for your stunt points?
Oh, yeah.
Please.
Absolutely. We're going to use flirt. Oh, no! Never mind.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it does. Give me a minute to look at them here.
I won't lie. Kind of like stunned silence. That's a fun one too.
That is a fun one. Let's do that one. Let's do that one.
Could you read it for others?
Sure. You are so impressive that you leave all those who witness your display completely dumbfounded and unable to speak for at least a full round. Outside combat, this lasts, at the very least, long enough for your character to begin to do something else. So what I will be doing is trying to press him for information about his military situation, like why he feels like he should be wearing his full getup. That's what I would do.
Awesome. So that's the kind of thing that you would lead into. My question is this: what did you say or do to stun him into silence? And then you would lead into that as he's just kind of like,
I never thought I'd be so delighted to be accompanied by someone nearly twice my age.
Oh my god, that's like, oh, that's funny. That's hilarious. Okay, so okay, so it literally is one of those things where he's just kind of like, we can even go so far as to say the reason why he's so silent for so long is because he's literally was in the middle of taking a sip of wine or whatever it was that was provided by her, and he's like, he has to take a moment to kind of like temper his throat while he's choking down the wine from how it like kind of got stopped in there. And so in that time, you then press on about his military.
Yeah, speaking of which, gave you plenty of time to rise the ranks of your military.
Do me a favor, roll me a persuasion check as you're trying to like kind of guile this information out of it.
Sure.
Jesus. Oh my
Why
God.
can't I get 4 and flirt?
Oh, well, no, you didn't get stunt dice. You didn't get any stunt.
Oh,
So
you're right. My bad.
total, which is like, for a total, that's crushingly high. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So with your 19 total, you kind of like, as you say that, he catches himself, he has a couple moments later, and he's like, you were specifically trying to get information about what he's doing for military, right?
Mm-hmm.
He specifically says, my time has been spent for I have spent a considerable amount of time in the military, as you've so eloquently put. In recent years, it's been to the east on the wall, overseeing the mages to make sure that the walls maintain their strength and integrity. Things are going well enough. I have to say we've done an excellent job holding back the Paradel military, and I am pretty sure that the safety of the nation was far from failing. And for that one, roll me a perception check.
Sure.
Yeah, so as I said, he kind of like says that thing to you. With your 8s total, you're able to see that he was giving you measured response.
Sure.
But nonetheless was answering your question. Unless you say anything else, he does continue on.
I'd say I am going to flirt with him a little because that's kind of my job. And I would say, well, with men of your stature, I'm hardly surprised. Take a sip of my wine, and that can be the end of our idle chit chat if you'd like.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And so it's one of those things where you kind of can get the impression that, he's probably here for something pertaining to the wall. There are a lot of important persons that are going to be here at this event. And it all depends on what it is that you're looking to do for this guy. If you're just going to be arm candy, then you can easily just sit there and entertain him. But if you're looking to help him make his connections, then, well, you're going to kind of want to keep an ear to the ground of what it is that you can do. The two of you arrive at the gala to describe the location that you go to. Now, mind you, the gala does not take place at the same location every time. There's actually multiple different places where it
like TwitchCon. Sorry.
Except slightly better venues. So this year, where it happens to be taking place, once again in the capital of Viscaria, is at its my apologies, is actually going to be at its palace that happens to be there. So again, this is a plutocracy, so it's not like there's any king or queen, any emperor or empress or anything like that that runs the nation. However, in its history, it did actually have persons of that kind of power. It just transitioned over the course of many, many generations past. So the palace that still literally exists for things like summits of nation leaders throughout this continent. Very rarely does each continent kind of interfere with one another because the oceans are vast and very unforgiving and so on and so forth. But this actually happens to host a lot of events between nations leaders and whatnot, kind of like peace conversations. But sometimes it'll host the gala, in which case when this happens, the whole place is kind of emptied out of any documentation or like that is of significance, and literally every room in the entire palace is opened for entertainment, which means all of the grounds and the front and the back, whatever it might be, kind of like situated as like little parks or whatever in the middle, every cellar all the way up to the top floor. These are all rooms that have servants inside of them to provide food and drink and entertainment. There's music. That if you can't hear music in the grand hall in the room next to it, that's okay, because there's other music over there that's being played. So there's literally different tastes and tones depending on where it is that you're trying to go, which is actually really nice because the sheer number of people and difficulty of the people that show up to these events tend to like what they like and don't want to suffer other things.
Right.
So.
And usually don't have to.
Which is why things like this exist. So, so when you actually arrive to the place, you can imagine, of course, the staircase leading up to the entrance of this old palace from ages past. You can imagine, again, the foreground that exists there, the number of other carriages that are pulling up to it, the sheer number of servants there, the fact that every step leading up to the entrance of the palace has a guard on either side that's standing there almost, like almost motionless as they're watching after people as they're entering into the place. And of course it's all a bit of show. We know that Asgard doesn't really have a very strong military. This is all very much for show for the people that are presented. When you go into the place, again, the art that's on all the walls, everything is meticulously placed and is absolutely beautiful. One of the things that you notice as you're following your date's lead, because unless you feel the need to take it over for XYZ, as you're following your date's lead, you can see that they're kind of having a lot of different conversation with different persons. You can actually roll me 2 checks, please, Doxy.
Sure.
First one is going to be a intelligence check for the kind of conversations and a communications check for how it approaches the conversations.
Sure.
Hey, 5 stunt points in the first one, too. So you get a total
flirt!
of 18.
I will flirt!
5 stunt points for the intelligence aspect, which is going to be more of exploration. And none on the communications part.
Obviously. Okay, give me a moment.
Technically, you might be able to flirt with the intelligence if you're trying to lead them towards... Yeah, I don't know. For the intelligence, more of exploration, because you're trying to learn about them, and the communications, how they're... This is more about learning about them.
Okay. I think I will use those stunt points to use the object of your attention. You receive a +1 bonus to further tests to examine or perceive additional aspects of the object of your test until the time or venue changes.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. That's pretty.
So I get a +1 on all those rolls.
So yeah, including that. So anything else that pertains to kind of like this person, trying to learn anything about this person, you're gonna get additional 1s. So it also means that your communications check was on 11, it was 12. Cool. So what's that gonna say on?
Could that +1 have been to the 3 so that I have 4 fucking communication stunt points? Okay.
It's to the total. It's a modifier. So with your 18 total intelligence and your 12 total communications, one of the things that you're trying to find, that you pretty easily find out about this person, is that 2 things. One, sorry, I should say 3 things because it's a tag at the end. So one, what they're trying to find out is who it is that actually has access to different types of magical components that seem to amplify somebody's innate ability to for magic, even if, because this is a really high, so I'm giving you a lot because it's a really high result you got. You're looking for somebody that he's trying to find magical components that amplify somebody's ability to use the kind of like raw or innate magic without necessarily having a lot of magical training. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a
potency.
Yeah, exactly.
Magical Viagra.
Exactly. Without
Viagra.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Magic Viagra, whatever. Without the control that you would expect a more experienced person to have. So just that, you know? And with the communications, you can actually see that this person, he does, Vitus. He does actually have a lot of tact, as you can imagine, somebody of a high-ranking military officer. He does actually have a lot of tact to him as he approaches these people. Unfortunately, every time he tries to approach people, even though his tact is good, they don't really seem to want to participate in these conversations. And you can kind of get why, the tone of it. But more importantly, with that communications check, there was a little tag to it. You're also starting to see that not only are they not really giving him a lot of information, but there are other persons around the gala that, because of the garb and everything that he's wearing, are giving him kind of looks. Like, you can see that there is definitely a bit of a tone to it. Most importantly, there are actually military officers, commanders I should say, from the Paradel military that have kind of are a bit more gregarious than he is. He's a bit more conservative. That are certainly, at one point in time, you definitely know you saw pointing over in his direction, said some one-liner, and everybody laughed. You know
Old Vitus the Itis, yeah.
So, and so there's one of those things where you can kind of get that impression of everything. How would your character kind of approach this situation where you see that it's not that he's doing a bad job, he's just being unsuccessful in his own endeavors of trying to find access to these kinds of stones that he was talking about, and other persons.
If I may, Vitus, I feel that you're speaking to maybe the wrong kind of people. You should speak to scholars. With a tone of curiosity rather than need.
I don't know what you mean by this.
Speak to those that study it. They'll be more excited about your curiosity to learn. They'll want to quench that thirst.
Truth be told, miss. It says, truth be told, little miss, it's not the studying I'm very interested in. Just simply get my hands on.
Right. These people will know where it's sold. These people will know where it goes after they study it.
I now believe I follow your meaning. Follow the trail. Unfortunately, I don't really know anybody of this that does that. I'm familiar with those that handle the sales, or I should say lack thereof. But I don't really know those that study it.
That's where we make friends, I suppose. Would I know anybody there that would be scholarly or that could point me to a scholar?
Actually, yes, very much so. You happen to be friends with Renee.
Okay. Do allow me?
He kind of like looks around, and then he's an older gentleman, so he's very reserved, very conservative, right? But then he gives you, as it kind of like breaks character for a moment, that look of like almost defeated desperation, and then he's like, "Please," and then you can kind of see him gathering himself back again.
She would really sweetly wrap her arm around his arm, and like just make a show of making him feel like valued, because she can feel that he's feeling a little bit down on himself, and like, she doesn't like that. She doesn't want him to feel like that.
Go ahead.
So she'll like, sexy and sweet, like get close to him, and lead her over to Renee, and be like, "Renee, my darling."
Sure. Actually, why don't you, as you're trying to like coax him into being kind of like a attaboy, you could actually roll me a communications check for that one.
Sure. Would it not be persuasion though?
You're not trying to convince him of one thing or another. You just try
convince
to
him of his own worth. You don't think?
Sure. Why not?
You could say no. You can still say.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Sun points 4.
Flirt.
And by the way, a total of a 19. This is not gather information, so you don't get the +1, but a 19 is a ridiculously high result again. So you flirt. Let's read it.
Literally just the way that I look at him, by the way, is the flirt.
Okay.
And I will read it. Choose one character who is present and immediately make an opposed communications seduction versus willpower self-discipline test. If you win, that character becomes enamored with yours. What exactly this means in the moment and how it might play out or fall apart in the long run are up to the GM and depend on how you continue to act. But if you're successful, you've created an opening for romantic opportunities.
So you get to roll that communication seduction roll. Since seduction isn't something that you're have like additional training, you just roll communications versus my result. My result, of course, is
Mine's not good.
Mine's actually, I rolled a 4, a 1, and a 3. So I rolled an 8 total.
Okay.
Yeah. So you actually beat me. So, and what happens if you win?
He's enamored with me. So, like, he's going to be more eager to please me and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So he was already, of course, to a degree enamored, and obviously you were hired for XYZ. But it's one of those things where because you kind of like, you not only did you get him, like, bolstered and like, you know, it's not that so bad. It's, you know, situation. He's kind of like able to see like whatever coaxing, whatever he did. It's like you said beforehand, the look that you gave him kind of almost makes him forget about, and this is literally your job. You make him almost forget about the pressures of everybody around him, the fact that he probably heard that joke beforehand, the concerns of at home, and it's just kind of like one of those tunnel vision. Oh damn, you know what I mean?
Yeah, fuck yeah. That's exactly what she's going for. Like, come on, you're here with me. Come on.
Yeah. Was it all of a sudden, like in the background, somebody like scratches the record and the Pitbull comes on for just one night, right? Of course, every time I think of that song, I can only think of it from Pitch Perfect, right?
Oh,
jeez. Think of the girls like, you know, grouping up to anyways.
Never saw it. Don't need to.
You never saw Pitch Perfect?
Don't need to.
You don't need to see the sequels, but the original, I won't lie, is I've seen it way too many times. It is a really, really, really good movie. But the sequels, you don't have to, but it's really good. And you should. You're a terrible person if you don't. So you are making your way over to speak up to Renee. Now, Renee himself is somebody who is, if you've ever known any engineers in real life, and please don't be offended, engineers, but this is a pretty typical rule of thumb when it comes to engineers. They're people that are very like ones and zeros minded. These are people that are sure they do get jokes and they do know how to joke around.
Maybe slightly awkward, yeah, right?
But like they're a little awkward. You know what I mean? It's one of those like they can be conversational, but even the more charismatic ones are like, well, you know, he's charismatic. So Renee himself is, when you see him, he's always put together. Even though he's wearing, of course, the full appropriate garb for the event that he's at. So he's wearing that full tuxedo, that very nice, fine, everything is properly placed. But he wouldn't be there, of course, without some sort of something to keep him minded of he has work to do. So of course he does have a pocket watch with him, which is something that's extremely rare. But if you're going to find something that's rare and expensive, it's going to be an Ascaria. So he does happen to have a pocket watch with him where he's able to keep track of the time. How accurate it is to actual like solar time, who cares? But it's something that exists, and he's looking at it and kind of keeping track of, is my obligated amount of time being here at this event over so I can get back to the duties that I need to take care of. He, of course, is not just an engineer, he's specifically an alchemist, somebody that literally works at the a mixture of chemicals to try to bring out their finest qualities. Or find ways to break them down. When you see him, it's one of those things where even just seeing you, because he's had several experiences with you in the past, you can see that kind of like slight smile on his face appear of a generally stoic face as he as it's like a welcome distraction from the fact that he was literally just sitting there and watching people eat over at the nearby bar,
right? Because
the food does look good. So as you walk over, and I think you said Renee, or however it is that you...
My darling. Renee, my darling.
That's right.
Yeah.
He saw you walking over from a short distance and watched the rest of the walk. You say that. And he looks down at you and says, pleasure to see you again. Penicillin.
Chrysalin.
Because there was a conversation beforehand about pronunciation. No, it's going to take me a minute.
That's okay. You'll get there.
At least I'm not calling Jake Tesh right now, or vice versa. Chrysalin. He says, he looks down at you and says, Chrysalin, always a pleasure.
I dare say this place is more beautiful than the Academy itself. Are there gardens?
He says, there are gardens. You should know this from the last time you were here.
Was it one of those times we had too much of the wine from the Academy?
You can see he almost gets like a little rigid at that one, as you like kind of, it's one of those things where he appreciated the joke, but we're in public. Oh,
she'd put a hand on his face and just like kind of shake her head and say, shall we walk them?
And he does nod. It's one of those awkward moments with the two gentlemen. Obviously everybody knows the Jewels of Eroth and their significant
protocols.
The protocols, yeah, right. Of course they know, but it's that awkward moment where both the guys like, "Hi, dude," hey, dude. Oh, yes, this girl.
This is my ex. Ex, meet my sex. Yeah.
Right. It's one of those like funny awkward moments, but it's actually more awkward for Renee than it is for Vitus, because Vitus is again very much taken. He's kind of like swoon at the moment on your arm, or you on his arm, and at the moment it's kind of like he knows, well, that's the past and the present. You know what I mean? So you can kind of pretty quickly get that impression, but this is not something that you're not inexperienced with. You deal with all the time. So as the three of you start walking, it's actually, I imagine, very small amount of light conversation as you make your way out to one of the gardens. And again, it's pretty expansive, the space that you have here that you can kind of get into conversation. You're welcome to roll a communications to kind of like set the tone of small talk, or you can say, no, we really talk about nothing important.
Honestly, I would get right down to business. I would just say, what providence that we should come upon you. We were just discussing. You gonna be okay?
Apparently, I can't drink water at all today, Doxy. It's okay.
We were just discussing my inclination towards the substances that you study.
And it's one of those things where he actually says, well, it's a funny thing about that, actually, because what I've recently discovered was, and then he once again falls upon the fact that you have, because you can almost imagine there's a degree of comfort that he has when he hears your voice, right?
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
in conversation with you. Then he remembers, oh, there's someone whose arm that you're on, and look how they're dressed. And you can pretty quickly get that impression off of him without even needing to make a check.
Okay.
How do you approach it?
I would like to do the same kind of persuasion thing where I just give him a look that like makes him break down his walls and feel comfortable and safe.
Oh, yep, you make that roll.
Persuasion then?
Please. So with a total of an 11, it's one of those things where you can try to give him like one of those soothing looks, like you've done many times in the past, as he kind of gets worked up about, like, oh, like you maybe want to spend like another hour of the evening together because you're having so much fun, and honestly, it's paid for the whole evening anyways. And he's like, no, I must get rest because I have important work to do. And you usually can give him that kind of look that kind of like, lulls him into staying.
Yeah.
You try to give him that same look now, but it doesn't seem to have the same effect as it does when the two of you are having an evening together.
Okay.
And so you can almost see like his way of handling that as you give him the look. Right as he starts to swoon a little, he kind of like averts his eyes and once again gets a little rigid again. And he says, well, it's important matters nonetheless, the work that I do. What brings you here? He says, turning to Vitus. And Vitus actually says, well, in fact, I've come because I'm interested in the research that is done on certain materials that are found very common here in Ascaria, but it's not really elsewhere. It's I have to say, you know that in Malta, it's mandatory that all citizens serve into the military, and unfortunately, when some citizens join young, they decide to stay on and don't pursue their own personal goals or interests. That was me. I'm happy to have served my nation. I'm proud of the work that I did for them, but I'm getting late in my years, and I'm afraid that perhaps I passed the opportunity to I suppose explore my own interests. Give me a second to roll his persuasion check to the other guy. I'm actually going to open roll this.
Can he have a buff for having me with him?
Actually, let's see. Would you give?
Or can I use my stunt points right now to do sway the crowd? Maybe your interpersonal efforts are so effective that they spill over onto others in the area.
You unfortunately didn't get any stunts for this last roll. So, because
you're right. Why do I keep thinking that I do?
Because you always see it highlighted.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I'll get used to it.
So he actually, funny enough, rolls his own persuasion check. Gets not only a 13, but a 5-point stunt with his own role playing, because NPCs get this kind of stuff as well, right? Mm-hmm. And so he actually says that as well. So your success gives you your own brilliance and strength of character for the rest of the current role-playing exchange. You get a +1 bonus on opposed checks. That's funny. So if they try to intimidate him, so he's actually going to do Tower of Will against the guy to give him a degree. To get him a degree of what it is. Or no, he's going to do exactly what you were about to say. Sway the crowd.
Yeah.
So kind of with his own thing. So the other guy is kind of like when he hears it, like the idea of not being able to pursue his own interests and whatnot. You can actually see he kind of like bends to the idea of it, and he's like, "Indeed, I can see that would be rather frustrating. To what end were you hoping to advance this research at will? Apologies, but such an advanced age." And you can see that one stung a little bit as it was meant to be a bit of an insult and echoes something that you had said earlier on. But he...
I would tighten my grasp on his arm for a brief second.
And again, he seems very sure of himself anyways, because of all that has transpired prior, and the fact that you do tighten that grasp on his arm, exasperating what I just said. But the his response to it is, well, you're only as old as you allow yourself to believe you are. You need not be a boomer. Shut up, guys. You're only as old as you allow yourself to believe you are, and I think that by maintaining the mentality of a student, you can see yourself go very far in life, whether it be a very successful officer in a military or perhaps contributing in some way to the world of sciences.
I would look at him very admirably, like give him an actual look of admiration, like look up at him, like, wow, like, yeah, right on.
And you can see once again that, continuing with the 13 there, that Renee is actually a bit swayed by what he's saying. And he's like, well, it would be a discredit to all forms of science if we didn't welcome all brilliant minds to apply their capabilities to their to find new results or find new discoveries. And clearly, I can see by the markings on the attire that you are somebody that has had some degree of, if not success due to brilliance, then at the very least luck. And luck is something that I happen to lack lately. What kind of discoveries were you interested in? And the two of them are able to kind of like start to move into conversation. Where would you see as they're kind of like having this conversation back and forth of whatnot, how would you see yourself playing between the two of them?
I would definitely be giving more focused attention to Vitus, but like rewarding looks at Renee whenever he divulges something.
Okay, so I'm gonna have, as opposed to a persuasion in this one, because we're kind of like just playing kind of like background noise, setting a tone, maintaining tone, and so on and so forth.
Maybe I would throw in a joke or something every now and then, but like nothing inappropriate or.
Okay, yeah, exactly. And the throbbing one on no.
Right.
So why don't you roll me a communications once again for this?
Sure.
And because you get 4 stump points. Hello. How would you use those 4 stump points for this part of it? And I was going to have you roll something else too.
One moment. I'm sorry. I should have really studied these better.
No. That's fine. None of us did. None of all of us are learning it as we go. And by the way, this isn't where it ends either, Doxy. We can also come up with our own homebrew ones too.
Awesome. Okay, so I think I would use flirt, but it wouldn't necessarily be super flirty towards Renee, just more like ego boosting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so ego boosting Renee, you're saying?
Ego boosting Renee, flirting with Vitus.
Okay, cool. And so we'll allow that to allow that to happen. Of course, you don't need to make any other rolls because you've kind of already won him over and so on and so forth in the past.
Sure.
So I get what you're saying. So you're going to use your stunts, and you're already total of 16 for your result. I also want you to roll an intelligence check to see how much of this conversation they're having that you're able to follow along with, and because you could potentially also contribute. Because one thing that's important about your particular character is she's not dumb.
Yeah, she's kind of brilliant.
And you actually rolled 3 stump points. So once again, this is kind of an explorative thing or a role-playing thing. I'll allow either one of those to play out with your 3 stunt points.
Oh, this is spells. I was like, what?
Role play or explore?
You may, okay, I'm going to do that makes me wonder. Yeah. You may immediately make another perception test at no additional cost in time or resources to discover more information about your surroundings or the object of your test. This bonus test must use a different focus from the first test, however, and doubles on this bonus test do not give rise to stunt points.
Okay. So you get to roll a perception all of a sudden, and you don't have a focus that applies, so you're good.
No problem.
You don't get those 5 stunt points, I said.
That's fine.
Let's be clear.
Don't really need them. Like, I'm just pressing to really get this dude the information that he wants.
Sure. So what it is literally what you're going to be doing is as you're listening to the conversation, you're actually able to follow along well enough. I mean, you're not an engineer. You're not an alchemist. You're not even a mage by any stretch of the imagination. However, because of your upbringing, you did have a bit of magical training in your backgrounds. Not to the point where you're have any degree of specialty in it, but certainly...
Yeah, I'm not slinging spells left and right.
Yeah, correct. I mean, you don't have a focus in it like you do, say, persuasion and whatnot. Excuse me. My apologies.
That's okay.
2:30 in the morning. So while you but you do have a degree of understanding when it comes to magic and how things impact them, and you're specifically talking about ice magic, so what impacts those, and blah 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 blah, right? But more importantly, on top of like understanding it and able to kind of like give well, actually, I know that herb does that, like you guys have said, but isn't there also this other type of rock that can do that as well? And they kind of like, actually, in fact, there is, as you kind of like get them to remember it and push
at some point I'd be like, didn't you show me that in the stores of blah 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 or whatever, to try to find out where we can get some.
Exactly. So you kind of, not only are you going that way, but one of the other things that you're able to see or find out in the persuasion check of the conversation is you realize that Renee himself is actually very poignantly, specifically trying to, while gladly having a conversation about the materials and the different kind of results and whatnot they can provide. He's actually intentionally trying to avoid talking about who it is that sells these things in bulk and where it is that you can get them, so on and so forth. Even though you know literally his house, even though they predominantly handle processing, also have huge resources into who it is that then sells the products afterwards, right? So you can see that he's intentionally trying to avoid where these things are kind of like stocked in warehouses, where they can be discovered, but more about the process of the actual the science behind the processing of the materials. That's kind of what he's staying focused on. So you had already said beforehand, even before I said that little tidbit, that you're trying to mention these shops or whatever. So just to add to that, you can see he's even trying to like shy away from that a little bit more. Do you try to press that issue?
I would. I'm trying to think of how I would.
Sure.
Like, I really want to try reassuring him again.
Yeah.
That, like, he can trust me and that there's, like, we've already talked about these things 1,000 times before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be like, no, really, wasn't it in that shop in the square at this city?
Mm-hmm. So now I was going to pose one little thing here before you try to push it maybe now in this particular conversation. Would you try to wait the evening out a little bit more? Would you try to, hey, let's have a few more drinks first?
I would insist on some drinks.
Okay, sure. So you can kind of like allow the scientific conversation to go on a little bit further, because now you already...
Yeah, let them discuss it and let him get his like science boner going.
Okay, and kind of get that going. And this would allow you guys to do a little bit more drinking. Now, when it comes to the drinking bit, everybody's going to make kind of a constitution check to see after, and this isn't going to be like 10 minutes. It's going to be like a couple of hours of them having a conversation, you guys laughing and joking. We've already rolled so many communication.
Walking among the beautiful flowers, like the mood should be high, right?
Exactly. All that stuff, everything here is absolutely wonderful. And one of the cool things is you said the mood. One thing that wouldn't never ruin the mood is things like weather and whatnot would never drain on these events, because the Arcane Congress is here in full presence, and the Arcane Congress would make sure that the weather here is maintained at a good level for them. So what you're going to do is roll me that Constitution check, and I'm going to get this set up really quickly for myself. You can roll a Constitution drinking check, because I think you have a specialty in that.
Sure thing, I do. Not a great roll.
I rolled that really dumb. There we go. He's a bit older, so he's not as tough as he otherwise could have been. And then we have the other guy whose name is Renee. I just do it because I'm doing 2 at once. There we go. His constitution is this. There we go. So both
I'm better at drinking than both of them.
Which the important thing to state there is that you can kind of see everybody's getting a little bit tipsy, including yourself getting a little bit buzzed, but maintaining a degree of clarity, which is important. But as you start feeling yourself get buzzed, you're also pretty sure that you're able to see that they're also getting a little intoxicated as well. Excuse me. So that being said, obviously you were looking to press the issue before, like you had said. No,
I would find a good spot in the conversation to squeeze that in, though. Like, I wouldn't just be like, no, but really where? You know? I wouldn't do that. She would... Chrysalin is, like, skilled in the art of conversation.
Of course.
So she would wait for him to mention something about, like, the process or whatever, and be like, so from start to finish, you do this, you go like that, and then you send it off to that shop in the city that you took me to.
Was it Billy? Was it Billy, right?
Yeah.
It was Billy. Billy Jean. She's
stuff
not your
like
lover,
that.
But yeah. So why don't you roll me that persuasion check for communications?
Sure.
Beautiful.
There it is, bud.
So with that beautiful 19, and once again, like having a couple of drinks, these, and again, every time you've hit these successes, I'm looking at, I have a DC in my head that you have to hit, and I'm like, okay, how many cumulative beyond that number does she hit? So finally, and he has a couple of drinks in him, you finally get the libations a little bit relaxed, and finally you kind of get him to crack. And so you're like, and so the start to finish, and then where you bring it to, and he's like, well, you know exactly where it is we bring it to. We always store everything over at the warehouse over on the east end of town. Now, they don't stay there for very long because they're volatile in that state, and we can't have them so close to the riverside if God forbid something happened over there. So they're usually shipped pretty quickly over to, and he kind of like goes into that whole spiel and where they are. Now, he doesn't give a full shipping manifests or anything like that because he doesn't know that stuff, but definitely gives you explanations of where it is that they've seen. And he will specifically say, and the finished product that you're talking about was of course held by, and he gives the name of a person.
I'd interlace my fingers in Vitus's and squeeze, and then place a delicate gloved hand on Renee's face and be like, that's right. I recall. What a lovely time we had.
Say that last part one more time.
What a lovely time we had.
And so, and then from there, because obviously you're trying to be a little bit deceptive so that he's not aware of what's going on, I'm just going to make for him a little perception check.
Sure.
But again, Renee is not the most bright, and he's a little intoxicated.
He's very bright. He's just awkward.
My apologies. Conversationally bright. So. Oh, sorry. This is going to be Yeah.
Is it a contested roll?
I would say it is a contested roll based off of your communications.
So I should roll a communication?
Yeah, I would say that makes sense to be a contested roll. And you beat me by 2 and have 4 stunts versus my 2 stunts. So very
little
simply,
flirt in that what a lovely time we had in the glove hand. Yeah.
Sorry, it's a work glove. So and you put the little flirt in there. We don't need to roll for it because we get the point.
Right.
I imagine conversation kind of buttons off a little bit from there as you get that information. As the evening kind of like tends down, and it's one of those. He will say to you as you kind of spend your time. He'll actually say to you, it was to Vitus, I should say first. Renee would say to Vitus, I do have to say it was incredibly kind of you to spend so much of your time with such a beautiful woman on your arm with me. I genuinely appreciate your spending the time. Unfortunately, what it is that we hear of Malta is perhaps less true than at least how it is that you portray your people. Again, thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing yourself to be distracted. And then to you, he would turn to you and say, I hope this isn't our last meeting.
Of course not.
And you can imagine he kind of walks off. And it's one of those fun things where he walks off, pretty much the same way as he always does. There's a bit of a stiffness to it, but you can also see there's a little wobble in there too.
I would turn to Vitus and be like, I would say something to the effect of, I don't know what he means about their perceptions of Amulta. I know it's a lovely place, and just kind of reassure him.
For the rest of the evening with the two of you, obviously you'd spend some time here at the gala, but eventually the evening would come to its ends. And as is typical, no, not obviously always, but what is fairly typical is that the two of you will be able to kind of retire for the evening. It's actually one of those things where the savant himself, his rank, right? The savant actually goes to leave the evening with you, but you actually get the impression that you can actually roll me perception on this one.
Sure.
Before I say anything.
Not good.
8. No.
I'm drunk.
So yeah, right. Like I'm just a little off my game. Exploration 1 stunt. I suppose advantageous positioning. That's hilarious.
That is hilarious.
So then you can use advantageous positioning. I'll read this one while you enjoy your jewel for a second. You make your discovery from an advantageous position of your choice, up to 2 yards away from the place that would normally lead to your discovery with respect to the object of your test. You may await until the GM describes what you found, if relevant, before you choose your position. This stunt can be used multiple times, funny enough, on the same test if you have enough stunt
This
points.
does get more ridiculous the more it's applied.
So one of the things that you get the impression of is as he goes to kind of like, part ways with you. And again, the DC is not very difficult for you because it's literally your lifelong career. You get the impression off of him that while he's actually looking to part ways with you, it doesn't even look like because as he like walks you to the room that you'd be spending your evening in here at the palace, because clearly, many guests of renown would be staying here, whereas others would be carted away. As he brings you to the room, you can see that he intends to leave you here for the evening and go his own way. But you also get the impression, woman's intuition, or whatever you want to call it, that he's kind of remiss that he has to leave you for the evening.
I would plant a wet kiss right on his mouth, like a slightly wet kiss, like a sexy kiss on his mouth, and say, "You may come in."
So with that, obviously, he's pretty happy, whatever it is, and you can use your advantageous positioning. It's 2 yards away. So obviously the evening goes. Do you want to make a check, Doxy?
Why would I?
Just to see exactly how,
All right.
You've made 210 jokes about it. Might as well make a riding check, but clearly you couldn't pull any stunts. So,
didn't need any.
vanilla.
He's pretty not practiced. He's very committed to the military.
You don't know that. So anyways, so 14 total riding check, Doxy. Sorry, everybody. We literally had so many jokes about I'm skilled at riding. So anyways, you guys have a good evening, whatever it is. One of the things that you notice in the morning is that your character clearly is somebody who is also very dedicated, very routine, very so on and so forth, on what it is that she does with the day-to-day. But imagine in the evenings, and please correct me if I'm wrong on my misunderstanding, on the evenings that you spent doing these kind of tasks, the next morning, especially because you've had some drink in you, you almost allow yourself to be relaxed. You wake up a little bit later. You can almost enjoy that lounge.
We would bathe together. I would bathe him. We would practice hygiene together. It would be very comforting and almost spa-like for him.
The next morning?
Mm-hmm.
So actually, let me describe this and see how kind of you feel you want to react to it. I imagine when you wake up the next day, so you probably wouldn't wake up super relaxed, just maybe a little bit more relaxed than a rigid routine that you would do other mornings, right? Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. You would actually see that because he's very militant, he actually would wake up very early, especially being an older person. You know how they are. 4 a.m. is late.
Already have the lawn mowed. Yeah.
Millennials. They're ruining napkins. So so he is already up, but because again, I can imagine your character is also practiced for the sort of thing being with a military person, that he's not fully dressed and in uniform, but you can clearly see that as you're waking up, he's already out of the bed and starting to get dressed. Would you?
Sure.
Please.
A bath?
So
Breakfast?
You would kind of take him from there and kind of invite him to. Our time together is not over. Please. Let's
Right. I'd show him like a little pouch of herbs or whatever that I keep for oral hygiene, and like the soaps and baubles and stuff that I have for a nice bath, and like offer a massage and stuff like that.
So, do me a favor, actually. Roll me a, not persuasion, because you're not trying to convince him. It's for just like your overall tone of the situation. Roll me another communication check, please.
Sure.
So 13's is good enough. So one of the things is you don't only get him to join you. You actually get him to open up a bit more with you. And when he does actually join you, which took just a smidge more convincing than just a bath or whatever, you're actually like, no, please.
Like I want to, yeah.
Yeah. When you actually get him to come with you, he actually opens up a bit more. He actually explains to you a few different things. First of all, he explains to you, he's like, I have to tell you, I wasn't completely honest with you when we had spoken yesterday.
Oh.
Obviously I selected you to be my companion, but I didn't know you, and so I didn't necessarily feel comfortable with the conversations we were having. But
Sure.
I feel like
it takes some getting used to.
Yeah. He's like, I feel like we've grown a bit of a kinship together, and I hope it's not inappropriate for me to say that.
Not at all. I aim to have, to be your muse.
On the wall, it said that I believed that I didn't think that there was any concerns. That I thought that maybe everything would be fine moving forward, but it's actually not true. The reason why I'm looking to get these crystals from your friend Renee, or in general from Ascaria for Malta, is because the wall's melting. You see, the degree of magic that's required to not just construct but maintain the wall is incredible. With the war continuing to rage on, the number of lives being lost that are skilled mages, being pinpointed out on battlefields, we don't have individual mages with the robust amount of magic at their disposal as we did before. So we're having to rely more and more on lesser practiced, more innately adept casters. We're relying more and more on just raw ability to keep the wall from completely melting. And we think Paradol knows it. We've seen them growing in numbers at our border. We've even seen one of the lakes where the water was kind of pouring back into. We've seen the level rise rather considerably since this past winter has passed, and as the spring is coming to an end. We're not even in the hottest days of summer, and already the water levels are rising.
That's terribly frightening.
It is.
Haven't you masons that could build a stone wall?
The problem is, maintaining the ice wall can be done from the safety of its back end, and having that much quarried stone brought to the wall is very difficult because even the back end is melting. Even its position is not where it was to begin with. It's pushed back by miles. If we had a map before us of a Malta, I could show you. The wall stands further back than where it was when it was originally erected about a decade ago. Anyways, I tell this to you because of something else that I hadn't told you before. I came to you not because I was looking for simply someone to spend my time with in the gala, but also because of a certain reputation that you have around you. I was told to select you because of something that happened last year at this event. something that you had...
Oh, the time with too much wine.
Well, nonetheless, the words that you said raised a bit of questioning. And after a little bit of investigation as to who you were, it was brought to certain people's attention that perhaps your talents may actually be able to aid more than just the jewels of Eroth, but potentially even the crown of Amulta.
Vitus, darling, I've enjoyed our time together. I'm afraid you haven't even seen me with a bow. I don't know how much help I could be to an army.
There's more to defending a nation and its culture, its people, than raising a sword, knocking an arrow, or casting a spell. And there's certainly more spells that can be cast than just by incantation, as you very well know, because you are certainly adept at casting spells on those around you.
I imagine she's like literally in a bubble bath with him, like him up against one side, her up against the other side, and she's like rubbing his feet. And I do have talents. I don't know. I don't know if I'm prepared to face the consequences of the Moissanite. Who I am is a diamond muse. And I would like to maintain that position, but if I can be of assistance to you or to the nation of Amulta, I absolutely offer my services.
It's not to me that you need to offer the services, because, again, I was simply sent here with a certain task, and it seems as though we've both succeeded. The Queen herself is looking to meet with you. Barring, of course, a few security checks in advance.
Queen Lucilia?
He nods.
I'd be honored.
As would Amulta be honored to have somebody with your talents serving her.
Well, I will have to make arrangements with the Moissanite.
I've done a little bit of research about that as well. It seems as though a certain amount of leave you've been saving up for a considerable amount of time. It's bold for somebody to ask you to use that leave for our benefit, but I can assure you that the amount of gratitude that you would receive in exchange would not be small.
I enjoy my work, so I tend not to save my leave for anything. I just simply don't need it.
He nods. Perhaps
I'd be happy to use it to aid you in any way that I can.
He'll nod and he'll say, perhaps we'll find work that you also enjoy in service of another.
And then she would probably just like get on top of him and do sexy stuff some more.
I didn't expect that.
I mean, probably.
Yeah. Awesome. So, and then from there, it's one of those things where, after like kind of like that's all said and done and whatnot, your time with him is technically finished, and you would report back to the Jewels of Eroth to kind of like do a bit of a debriefing of
right.
How the meeting transpired, so on and so forth, how it was that you're able to benefit your house and so on and so forth. But my question is, before you would go back, you technically are supposed to, after your time with him is done, go back immediately. Would you have your time kind of end here in this morning? Would you actually look to accompany him to the location where these certain gemstones and whatnot would be able to be procured?
I would ensure that he knew how to get there.
Okay.
But like Crystalline said, she is a diamond muse of the jewels. That's who she is. That's who she loves to be.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not in any hurry to upset the Moissanite.
Okay. So, obviously, like you said, you're going to follow protocol. There's a reason why you're very high ranking. Is because you do not push those boundaries. Until maybe now. But even still, you haven't done anything wrong. Meeting with the crown, there's nothing wrong with that. Either way, so you would go and meet with them. I keep yawning, I do apologize. The woman that you generally report to, though this isn't the head matron of the Voice Knights here. This one is actually going to be someone who's ranked immediately beneath her. Because honestly, the flawless Voice Knights that happens to run here, she is usually kind of off handling bigger, more important things. Doesn't really handle the day to day with persons of other positions. Though obviously you're somebody that's very high ranked and somebody that she would hold in high regard. She doesn't need to have day-to-day.
I've met her. We like each other. She doesn't talk directly to me every day.
Correct. So instead you'd meet one who's internally flawless, right? And so when you meet her name, by the way, is Jasmine. I don't know if you want to make a note of that. But so when you meet Jasmine, I don't have her last name written down. It doesn't matter though. Isn't Jasper a type of stone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. So Jasmine, Jasper.
Okay.
So when you meet with Jasmine, JJ, she would actually, it's one of those things where the two of you kind of have like a little bit of a headbutting relationship.
Right.
Because of the fact that, the simple fact of the matter is, people that are of the Moist Knights organization, and this is, of course, you, Doxy, know this, but to explain a little bit, people of the Moist Knight organization, they technically sit on top of everybody else. If you imagine the structure of this organization, you'd be like a pyramid. They literally sit at the pivot, like that cat. They're on top, and so they control everybody else. Literally, it's their job to... Huh? It's their job to tell you where to go, who to be with, so on and so forth. Now, you can take out your own jobs or whatever, but when they tell you to do something, you got to do it. You report back to them. This is true for all the other branches. All the other branches, the structure, how it is that you different houses or whatever communicate with one another, etc., etc. And so sometimes there's a bit of haughtiness that we're better than the rest of them.
Right.
Now, that technically isn't true. Technically, every category is supposed to be of equal importance. They just have different jobs. What makes one person better than the other one is supposed to be their rank within their position. Technically speaking, you're actually amongst the highest rank that there is of the diamond. You're actually a flawless diamond. Mm-hmm. This woman is technically a lower rank than you. She's an internally flawless Moist Knight. But because you have to return to her and take her orders, she likes to see herself as being above you.
Absolutely.
And the worst part about the relationship specifically between the two of you is the fact that she thinks she's smarter than you, which is why she was chosen to be a Moist Knight. Either way. So when you go to report back to her, it's one of those things where you kind of go and you meet with her inside of her office. Now, one of the things that you know about her office is because she is not without a punny sense of humor, I guess what it would be. It always smells of jasmine. She always has fresh jasmines inside of her office. It actually is a really, really sweet. The problem is, like, the smell of jasmine, if you don't know in real life.
I hate the smell of jasmine, actually.
I was going to say, it's actually a beautiful smell, but I was going to say, imagine your character, it's like you almost associate it as being nauseating. You know what I mean?
I don't like it. Like, Doxy does not like the smell of jasmine.
That's hilarious. I'm so glad I chose jasmine.
That's funny.
So funny. So anyways, you imagine your character walks in there and it's almost like, ugh, it's almost too pungent, like smelling a candle directly rather than from afar, its cap, right? Walking by Yankee Candle. That's her office. To you. So when you open the door and you get, bombarded by the pungent stench of jasmine, you can actually see that she's, as always, eloquently dressed and sitting there and doing work. She's actually a very diligent person. Is a bright person. So as you come in, and you don't need to knock first or anything like that, do I imagine a polite rap?
I would. Yeah. I'm a kill him with kindness kind of person. Even if we disagree about something, I will tell you that I disagree with you, but I'm not going to be a dick about it. You know what I mean?
So when you give that knock and you go walking in, it's one of those things that she of course looks up a second and a half or so after you open the door to see who it is. And she gives you like a polite smile, and then says, "Hello there." It's like one of those like dragging tones that let me kind of finish what I'm working on really quickly. And like you said, you're a polite person, so I imagine. Would you kind of like linger and walk around the room? Would you stand in front of a desk, take a seat? How would you kind of like wait as she finishes up?
Actually pull the door back closed and wait on the other side of it to let her have her privacy.
Well, that's funny. So you actually like legit shut the door. So because you're going to wait so far, she actually ends up making you wait like maybe an additional minute or two longer.
No problem.
As she would as if you were in the room, but you allow her to actually properly finish the task that she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can actually hear her stand up, and you actually hear the clacking of her shoes, of her heels, as she's making her way across the room, and goes over and actually turns the knob and opens it up and says, "Hello again."
I curtsy at her.
She says, "Please come in."
And I would follow her in. I wouldn't say anything until she asked questions.
Okay. So
besides good morning, how are you? Stuff like that.
Of course. So when she, shuts the door behind you, and again, she's dressed, like I said, she's always dressed eloquently, but it's very much like a businesswoman, right?
Mm-hmm.
She shuts the door behind you, and she makes her way over, and she says, "I'm doing well this evening." She says, "I'm doing well this morning. Slept well last night. Yourself?"
Marvelously. A little too much to drink, paying for it today, but in high spirits.
Indeed. So, you had met with, and she goes over to a book and kind of flips through it. And it's one of those things where she flips through the book like it's like one of those, you're just one of the numbers.
Yeah.
And she flips through it and finally finds the page, and she looks down, like drags her finger down a list and says, that's right, Savant Vitus Zanara of Amolta.
Absolutely. He was a delight.
Sorry, did you say it's a delight?
He was a delight.
He was a delight. Sorry. I spoke at the same time. So you say he was a delight, and she gives one of those like smile nods, like, "Oh, that's nice." And then she says, "And did he find the services of the jewels to be satisfactory?"
I believe he will be a repeat customer.
She says, "Good. I'm glad to hear that. Now, please, what was it that he was after this evening?"
Social standing and information in regards to magical substances.
Indeed. Which magical substances specifically was he looking for?
I'm afraid I don't recall.
She kind of like, as she was like marking these things down, she kind of like stops and looks up at you. She's not wearing glasses, but one of those like over the brim of the glasses kind of looks. You know what I mean?
He insisted on very much wine.
She says, "And you couldn't quite hold yours?"
Not quite.
Did you not eat earlier that day?
Hors d'oeuvres at the gala.
There are protocols for a reason, if only you girls would listen. She says as she makes a couple of marks down and says, "Did you meet with anybody else? Did he speak with anybody of importance while you were with him?"
Absolutely. Renee.
And I imagine you list not just him, but like several others as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, here's the big thing. Do you leave it as Renee as being like an important one? Or do you
I think that she would
mix?
know him because I'm like a once a monther for him or something, you know?
Yeah. As again, very close rapport.
Or like actually she might say Mr. Glossine, or like a respectful title for his sake, not for hers.
So unfortunately you have an affiliation with the 3 of that last name, right? So
that's true.
Yeah, so you probably were by Renee Glossine, but my apologies. Did you you specifically have him stand out as we spent much time with him, or you just mixing?
No,
Okay.
just part of the list.
Okay, cool. So you kind of like list off all the different persons that you spend time with, and she asks you for other little details and whatnot. And again, it's one of those things, and she kind of comes around and she says, "And so he's been satisfied. We, of course, don't know exactly what it was he was looking for, but magical materials in general. And what are his plans? Does he intend to stay much longer here in Ascaria, or is he looking to scurry back home?"
I believe he's headed home soon.
Wonderful.
Within the coming days.
And a little less officially, any other extra details that you would like to note from your escapades?
Jasmine, are you trying to girl talk?
I'm seeing if there's anything else that's noteworthy that I should write down.
Should he request no one in particular, I'd like to be that no one in particular.
I'll be more than happy to do that for you. Certainly that he is interested in no one in particular.
She would actually giggle at that. That's funny. I like that.
And so she kind of like makes that marking down, and then she says, "So unless you wanted to engage in any further girl talk, are we done here?"
I'm fine if you are.
I'm sure there's nothing of interest that the two of us could find to converse over.
Right. And then I would take my leave and say, have a good afternoon.
Likewise, be sure to visit the baths.
I've already had one.
Wonderful.
And I feel like we always end our conversations like that. She always says, be sure to visit the baths, and I always bathe my customers.
And it's one of those funny things where she, even though she, of course, thinks of herself as better than other positions, she's particularly sharp with you. And again, one of the reasons likely is, and this is, I don't know how much into your character's past you want to get into, but the fact that you are a diamond and she's a moissanite, but you didn't have to be. And I don't know if you want to explore it or...
You talk about it.
Do you want to? Okay, sure. So,
briefly, talk about it.
Sure. So for the different positions, kind of like buttoning this off with a little more detail about your organization, is that there are different tiers to it. As we said, it's kind of like a pyramid that exists. I'm trying to pull up my little... There we go. Little pyramid that exists. So on this pyramid, we do kind of like almost have like 4 tiers, but 2 of the tiers kind of like have persons of equal significance. So whereas we have at the bottom of the pyramid, we have the pyrite, right? And these are like the laborers. So these are the people that literally will go and they either do like the muscle work for the actual organization itself, whether it be the laundering, so on and so forth. For like the lowest ranked people will actually stay within your actual estate and do that kind of like work, so on and so forth. The higher ranking ones leave your estates and actually go and work inside other estates, literally working amongst the workers. These are kind of like spies. They gather information that other workers talk about, hearsay, rumors, literally. There can be important things like whether or not there are certain types of stains on linens. Stuff like that are all information they can gather for your organization that others wouldn't know. And there are many different types of stains that you could have on linens that could have many different types of information going along with it. Certainly, if there happens to be someone who is believed to be going through pregnancy, is starting to have some blotching, could have a significant meaning to it, and so on, right? Then of that tier above it, there are the 2 side-by-side ranks, which are going to be citrine, which are going to be kind of like the merchants, people that actually handle trading of goods within your organization, or
often from the laborers, right?
From the laborers, correct? Yep. Or trading of goods of others that they happen to be working with that were hired to handle that trade for them. Mayhaps you are a wealthy noble that happen to get your hands on, or happen to stumble across a certain type of mine in your own lands, but don't know what to do with it. You could certainly hire a couple of citrines to come in and teach you what it is to handle this task, so on and so forth. Adjacent to the citrine in kind of like perceived significance is going to be the amber. Amber are going to be like the clerks. These people are the paperwork of the organization. They handle literally the muscle, all the hard paperwork and so on and so forth of the whole structure from top to bottom. But once again, the higher ranking ones could be hired out as like people that can help reorganize the structure of a failing bank, or help
do your taxes.
Do your taxes. Help to actually research and find the heraldry of a family line, or so on and so forth. And certainly we gather that information as they do so. The tier above that would be the 2 side-by-side ones, both diamond and ruby. Diamond we already know about. These are your escorts or companions.
That's me, the muse.
The muse, exactly. To a degree, they're actually, I mean, for lack of a better phrasing, they are a bit of prostitutes, though it does not always end in sex. And this is legal across pretty much all nations. And it's actually seen as a very well-respected position. And to have one of them on your arm is actually something that's both respected and respectable. And it's kind of like driving a really expensive car. Like, why do you own a piece of art that's worth $750,000 when it's in a hallway you never walk through? It's prestige, right? Mm-hmm. And then the rubies are actually funny enough because rubies come off as looking like diamonds. They're actually also escorts. And
they're ruby muses.
They're ruby muses, yeah. However, their dates don't tend to have let's just say that the ending of their evening also happens to be the ending of their life. These are assassins. Now, they don't always kill their own dates. Sometimes what they do is they act as muses to get into galas and so on and so forth to handle other persons that happen to be there. So you might think that you're hiring a diamond, but you're actually hiring a ruby, and you are just their way in, or you are their target, so on and so forth. So that's kind of like side by side with the diamonds. They're of significance. One is to gather information and manipulate. The other is to well, kill. And then sitting above at the apex of the pyramid, like we already said beforehand, is moissanite. Most of those stones you've probably heard of beforehand. If you've never heard the word moissanite, it's because it's actually a rock that falls from meteors, or meteorites, I should say. They're actually, moissanites don't exist naturally on Earth. So they're literally like...
Well, they do. They just rained down here.
Well, yeah, so they're not...
They were never produced here.
Yeah, they were not created by our core, what I mean
right.
Natural, yeah. So, and if you've ever heard of like a moissanite on like a jewelry store, something you can buy, those are all lab created. None of those are real because like they're so incredibly rare. They're actually extremely valuable. And funny enough, actually have a better brilliance and whatnot than diamonds do, which is, you know...
I did not hear that. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. They actually have more brilliance than diamonds do, which is why they are the brilliant one. I actually think it's the only stone that has more brilliance than a diamond does, top of my head. I believe it's the only one. But either way, so that's kind of like the structure of that. And the funny thing about Crystalline is that she's actually not only alluring and is good with social skills and so on and so forth, interpersonal skills, she's also quite brilliant and could easily have fallen in either of those categories. And we won't explain it any further, but for whatever reason, chose to be a diamond, or was pushed towards being a diamond. Whatever the case may be, explore that later on. Awesome. So cool, Doxy, I'm glad we got to do this opening session. See, one of the
it was so fun.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed doing these because one of the things is I do ask a lot of, what do you want to do here? How do you want to do that there? Because I really want to push you to learn your character, to feel out who they are in the world.
Baby, I was born this character. Come on. You know, a +2 to persuasion, a +2 to drinking, and a +2 to writing. Yeah. That's Zer0Doxy, bud.
Wait, do you write? Never mind. So, I like it because not only do you get to, do I push you like, I push you in a way that's uninterrupted by the other PCs, where you're learning your own persona. This is your first time doing a session 0 with me. Mm-hmm. It's a way to kind of like learn your own persona without having to have it like
interact.
Their
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
And so the whole session is literally designed for you. So
I always get really sad when GMs don't want to do solo session zeros. I love session zeros being solo.
No, I love it. And I love my format here of recording them all in advance and then kind of like releasing them in a good format. So
yeah.
I like the idea of how it is that your character is going to intermingle with the other two involved. So I know you're going to be excited to meet their characters and how you guys can interact with one another. It's very interesting because your character comes off as extremely flirty. So without announcing what their characters are or whatever, I think it's going to be fun to see if you go about that route with them, or if it's like, nah, that's what I do when I'm at work. When I'm at home, it's sweatpants and toots. You know what I mean?
If she needs to, she will. She knows where her strengths are.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm not. I'm curious to see. I'm like.
Yeah, I'm curious to see.
Yeah. So, and I think as you see their intro videos as well, and you kind of get an idea. I don't know if you're going to watch them or if you don't.
Oh, absolutely, I'm going to watch them.
Okay. I don't know if you wanted to go in blind. So,
I mean, sometimes I do like to do that because I don't like. It feels kind of metagamey, you know, to meet them before I meet them. But I'm just so excited about this campaign. Yeah, I'm so excited about it that I'm going to watch. I know I'm going to watch.
Well, that's good. That's exciting. So that way you can kind of like again, what's the word I'm looking for? What the thing I was going to say? So you can kind of like, you know, get an impression of how your characters will interact. So either way, without further ado, Doxy, because there will be other VODs being released either before or after yours, whatever it might be. I don't know which one they're going to be. Would you like to say who you are, where we can find you, even though I know who you are and I know
sure thing. Hi everybody, I'm Zer0Doxy. I don't do a whole lot of tabletop on my channel. I mostly play Dead by Daylight these days, and a couple other things sprinkled here and there. But I do really love roleplay, and it is a passion of mine. And to have a talented GM like Scott, it's an honor. So thank you for inviting me to this. But anyway, you can find me at twitch.tv/Zer0Doxy. I'm a disgusting human being. You will not like me, but you will like me. And then also you can find me at twitter.com/Zer0Doxy, because also, on top of being disgusting, I'm horrible at branding. Also, I have a fart gun. And a duck button.
There are going to be times when you're role-playing that character, and that fart gun is going to be really funny.
I'm so ready for it, you don't even know.
Like, you know it's going to be one of those things.
Oh, I use it, okay? The fart gun doesn't go cold. It doesn't.
The question is, how often does she pretend like she's pressing the fart button, but it actually sounds a little bit different than the gun?
There's too few farts. Believe you me, if I could put utility into this thing outside of giggles. Believe you me.
All right. Well, then, without further ado, we will end the session. Goodbye, everybody. See you maybe in a bit, or maybe this is the last one. I don't know.